Who passed and who failed? We got week one positional game grades.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day. Thank you for being here every single day, for being an everydayer. I'm Rose Ryan Arias, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Today's episode, game grades, offense, defense, who passed, plus some individual game grade thoughts. All that and more coming up on today's Locked On Badgers. First, today's episode also brought to you by our great friends over at Gametime. Download the Gametime app today. Create an account. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Let's get right into it. We're going position by position as I throw these in here. If you're watching the show later, put your grades in the comments. If you're watching it live, throw your game grades in the chat as we go position by position, and we'll see where we agree, where we disagree. As always, disagreements are great. This is just my list. It doesn't make it the right list. It's just where I think these grades come in after week one, starting with quarterbacks. C. So I think some grace needs to be given to Daniel O'Neal, which I've talked about, coming in as a backup. And I thought he did some really nice things with his legs. Overall, the position finishes 18 for 32, 5.9 yards per catch. Not enough. Like that illustrates the lack of big plays. A lot of the receptions were underneath. I think maybe the best throw of the game was Billy hitting Chris Brooks on like a 15, 16-yard slant over the middle. Great timing, drilled it in there, but not a lot of deep plays. That's going to have to get better. They took some shots, but they didn't connect on them. One touchdown, one interception, that interception to Daniel O'Neal that Daniel O'Neal had on fourth down in the red zone. It's not a good pass, but I think people need to remember that it's fourth down, and if you got to throw it, you can't. If that was third down, I think Daniel O'Neal throws it away because there's nothing there. You still have to do a better job of putting the ball somewhere where your receiver has a chance to make a play, but there just was nothing there and it was fourth down, so you had to throw it. But some missed throws, okay, a couple deep shots. I thought Billy Edwards overthrew Vinny Anthony a couple times, a couple bad throws from Daniel O'Neal on screen plays where he skipped it. I thought Daniel O'Neal, again, really nice job at times using the legs to extend plays, to gain some yardage. At times, he also held the ball a little too long in the pocket. He's got to be a little more decisive. He's got to process a little bit quicker. Again, I'm not going to rake a backup quarterback coming in the middle of a game week one across the coals. He's got to be better in some of those areas next week. So I think a C to me is fair. I've seen people be a little higher or a little lower. It was okay. I think there's more there under the hood for these quarterbacks, both of them, quite frankly. Okay, let's go running backs. B+ for me. Let's go B+. Jones averaged 5.2 yards per run. Dupree 5.1, Yak 4. So when your top three running backs are at 5.2, 5.1, and 4 yards per carry, that's pretty good. That's solid production. Not a lot, much like the passing game, not a lot of gashing plays, but they were often running against 9, 10 in the box. They were getting hit early. You know, the yards after contact for these running backs, when you go into the hood per Pro Football Focus, Dylan Jones gained 64 of his 73 yards after contact. That's really impressive. You know, he was fighting for yards. I thought all three running backs ran really hard. They ran physical. They fought for extra yardage. They put the pads down. Again, 64 of Dylan Jones, 73 yards after contact. He was also credited with forcing 5 missed tackles. He also had 3 receptions. Darren Dupree, 30 of his 41 yards after contact. So again, I didn't think there was a ton there. I didn't think there was a ton of room to operate or to run. I thought they made the most of it. So running backs B+. I thought they were solid. Also, Darren Dupree with a couple really nice pass blocking reps. When you go back and look, going back and rewatching the game, I thought he had some really nice moments in pass pro. I thought the running backs were good. I thought they were solid. Not spectacular, but I thought they were solid. Zach Bartz, by the way, said, love Zach. A lot of teams, both ranked and unranked, look slow and sloppy this week. 17-point margin of victory is on par where a majority of teams were. A shutout makes it better. Learn and move on. And DJ says, live on a Sunday. Let's go. Let's go, DJ. Yeah, I think, again, throw your grades in the chat as we go through this. I have quarterbacks at C, running backs at B+, offensive line, D. We just talked about how many yards the running backs had to gain after contact. Some of that is on the offensive line not staying on their blocks. Some of it was on miscommunication. Some of it was on the inability to drive defensive line off the line of scrimmage. And then in the pass protection, Davis Heinzen wasn't very good. And just calling it like it is, he gave up 5 pressures, couple hits. He had a quick pressure early in the game that led to a pass getting deflected from Billy Edwards. I thought Emerson Mandel was a little rough in points too. And I think Mandel's going to get better and better. The physical tools are all there. This is his first start, redshirt freshman. He's still pretty young. And he's a player that skipped from tackle to guard, moved back and forth a couple times. Right. So I think with reps, Emerson Mandel with those physical tools that I've really liked, that I've talked about, that AJ Blazik has talked about, I think his growth is going to continue happening. I think Davis Heinzen kind of might just be who he is. Now, I think he can get better too, but that was a rough week 1. Billy got hurried a couple times, got hit a couple times. Danny O'Neal got hit several times. Not a lot of room in the run game. And then again, I've talked about it a couple times, but I go back to that sequence. They had first and goal at like the 2 or 3 yard line, handed it off to Cade Yakimelli, got stuffed at the 1. Second and goal, tried the interior offense line again. And the interior offense line should be the strength of this team with Brunner in there and Renfro. And they got stuffed again. They had to quarterback sneak it on the 3rd time to get in. And even that wasn't, it was an easy touchdown, but even that felt like there wasn't as much push there as I would expect. So across the line, I thought there was room for improvement, and I don't think it lived quite up to expectations, but obviously the left tackle spot stood out. They talked about it on the broadcast. You can see some of those moments. It's also much easier to notice when a left tackle gets beat than a guard or a center. It's incredibly obvious. I would also point out, I thought there were times later in the game, you have Daniel O'Neal in there. Davis Heinzen has struggled a little bit. And I thought that defensive end for Miami, Ohio, looked pretty good. Justin's talked about that. But I thought they probably could have chipped a little bit more on that edge. I thought they could have adjusted a little bit more there. Maybe we'll see that going forward, maybe not. And I'm sure there's reasons why they didn't. But the offensive line was not good enough as a whole. And I think that's reflected in the tough running that the running backs had to do. It's reflected in the pass protection numbers that the quarterbacks had to kind of deal with. It's got to get better. I'm going to go with a D on offensive line. Neza says QBs get a D for passing. I guess you could call it a C if you include running and poise. Yeah, Neza's obviously a really sharp dude. I think I factored all that in. Daniel O'Neal with his legs, staying poised. I think it's a C, but I can see I know people have given the quarterbacks a B, people have given it a D. So I kind of split the difference. I think it's a C. Let's go receivers and tight ends, which I kind of lumped into one group. I went B. So I thought let's start with a good. I thought there were some really nice yak moments for the entire receiving group. You had Tretch Kekahuna had a really nice on the left side, made a couple people miss. Vinny Anthony had a couple nice yak moments. Jaden Ballard catching one short of the first down and then just kind of powering his way to a first down. Chris Brooks had some nice moments. So I thought really the group showed the ability to run after the catch, be physical, fight for yardage. That was nice. Not a ton of drops, although Vinny Anthony wasn't officially credited with a drop on that left sideline. To me, that's a drop. Vinny's got to make that play. And then 4 out of the 8, Vinny was targeted 8 times, had 4 receptions. I think if you're the number one, some of that's on quarterbacks for sure. Some of those throws were overthrown, but you got to be, if you're going to be that number one receiver, I think you have to have more than a 50% conversion rate when they throw to you. And again, I think one of those was a drop that Vinny Anthony surely would want back. I'm sure if you asked him, he would want that back. Tight ends, I thought Grant Steck looked really good. Not a lot from Mason. But I don't know how much of that is backup quarterback, offensive line protection. Maybe you keep him in the block more. So I went B. I think it was solid. Eugene Hilton looked good, but a drop here, a couple contested catches that I think they probably maybe put a better effort on. That one-on-one with Ballard down the post. Not a great throw, but again, when you have your backup quarterback, I think you need your receivers to step up and make some 50-50 plays as well. So I'm going to go a B on the receivers. All right, we'll take a quick second here. We're going to come back and talk about some of the stars of the game. What did I give the defensive line? What did I give the edge groups? Doing that next, Locked On Badgers. Let's go. First, a quick second for our friends of the show over at Gametime. College football is back. Let's go. It's back, and I could not be more excited. It's the tailgates, which I went to some of those this last weekend. Rivalries, energy in the stands. There's nothing like it. But let's be real. Sometimes getting tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game itself. The logistics of finding the spot and figuring out how to use them and getting the best seats. Sometimes it's painful. That's why I use Gametime. It's the app that gives the advantage back to the fans, the easiest way to score last minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. And you're going to see what you pay. No extra fees at the end. Gametime is honest. It's simple. It's fast. I've used it consistently. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms to apply. Again, create the account, use promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket. Go. Download Gametime today. All right, let's come back into this. Also, really quick, Locked On, they want to hear from you. There's an important request. If you have a little bit of time, we would love to hear from the listeners of the Locked On podcast. Tell us what makes your favorite podcast. What can make it better? This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey and enter for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcast.com/survey. You'll also find the link in the show notes. Thanks for helping us out. Okay, defensive line, A++. So when I'm talking defensive line, I'm talking about the interior, hog mollies, the big dudes. I'm going to give you an epic game reading of Miami, Ohio's running game. Kenny Tracy, 2.5 yards per carry. Daquan Finn, 1.1 yards per carry. Josh Ringer, 2 yards per carry. Jordan Brunson, 1.0 yards per carry. That's 34 rushing yards on 22 attempts. And it's not all the interior guys. We're going to talk edge. We're going to talk inside linebacker. We're going to talk defensive backs playing physical. But none of that matters if your defensive line is getting blown off the line of scrimmage. None of it matters. And we've played a lot of MAC teams. Teams play a lot of MAC teams, and they do not give up 34 rushing yards. We had Ted Brennan on from Miami, Ohio podcast, and he talked about how much they like Tracy, their running back, how physical he is, how much they want to run the ball, how it's the staple of their program, how Daquan Finn is going to enhance their ability to run the ball. They ran into a brick wall. They ran into fortifications. This interior defensive line, Parker Peterson, Ben Barton, Brendan Lane, good game by Brendan Lane, by the way, with a couple of pressures in pass rushing situations. They were awesome. Physical, controlling the line of scrimmage, not getting pushed back, allowing the linebackers, right? What does that do? That allows your linebackers to flow. We saw Tackett Curtis get into the A gap on one play, make a tackle. That doesn't happen if the line is getting pushed back. We did not see this year. We saw the continued rotation we talked about. A++. The defensive line was awesome. They were great. We saw the depth in place as they rotated guys in and out. We saw the ability to stalemate the offensive line, the ability to allow the playmakers to fly around the field. If you take anything away from this game, be excited about this group, because regardless of who you're going to play, you give up. I mean, Iowa gave up more rushing yards to Albany. You know, you talk about level of competition. This is a MAC team that's been in the last two conference championship games for their conference. They're good. They're solid for that level. And they just stonewalled them. A++. Let's go. Kudos to Coach Tressel. Kudos to Coach Whitlow, the defensive line coach. Kudos to those pieces. Kudos to, Brendan Lane coming back. Kudos to Ben Barton being a pillar in this program and the new pieces they brought in. You can't say enough. They were awesome. This was an awesome defensive performance. Okay, 34. Miami, Ohio tried to run the ball. They made a concerted effort to do it. I mean, probably based on what the film showed them with Wisconsin last year. This was a team that you could get on the ground. This is a team you could push around. This is a team you could bully. And I get it. Like, it's week one and it's Miami, Ohio. I'm not planting any flags in the ground and saying everything's fixed, but you could not have asked for more week one with a bunch of new pieces from this defensive group. A++. Edge. A++. Like, dude, Reiger, Peterson, Cheeks, Fearbury, Daryl Peterson. Did I say Peterson? I think it did. Dude, combined for 7 to 8 hurries. Reiger, you saw the motor, but Sebastian Cheeks had 3 hurries. Daryl Peterson looks better at that weight with his hand in the ground. Nicholas Clayton got in for an edge, for a snap. I thought Fearbury looked the part as well. Again, they controlled the line of scrimmage. Again, several times, Miami, Ohio tried to get to the edge. They tried to outflank this defense. This defense is faster. I think there was maybe one play where I was watching and I was like, gosh, Finn did kind of outflank him on that one play, and maybe it was Darrell Peterson trying to track him down. But for the most part, Miami of Ohio couldn't get to the edge. The zone read game, the read option game that they tried to play was pretty well contained. Finn's a really athletic dude. Not the best passer. Not the best passer. Let's be clear. But that is a very, very agile, quick quarterback that this defense just enveloped. I mean, they caught him in a spider web and they just destroyed him. Yeah, A plus plus. I thought Reiger and Cheeks were maybe outside of Zachman the stars of the defense. And again, much like the interior, you saw the depth. You saw Peterson come in. You saw Fearby come in. You saw Clayton come in. I don't think you could ask for more. A plus plus. By the way, if you guys have grades in here, throw them in here as well. Zach Bart says defense as a whole gets an A. And then Lane, that's Brendan's dad. He was great, man. A couple of interior pressures in the pass rush, plus very stout against the run. Let's see what else we got here. Zach Bart's defense allowing 117 yards, 2 turnovers, 3 sacks, 0 of 9 on third, pitching a shutout. Yes, they answered the bell. The rush was there, twist, stunts. I don't remember last year. Defense gets an A. Also, some really well-timed corner blitzes, safety blitzes. You saw Latimer get in there one. Now, Finn is hard to break down. He's hard to tackle, and he was able to get around some of those safety corner blitzes, but you like seeing the exotic pressure packages. It feels like Tressel had it dialed in, and that wasn't the case last year. It wasn't the case against similar levels of competition last year. So, yeah, let's go. Just like Hoover said, A plus for both edge and interior. That's exactly where I'm at. In fact, I think I gave him an A plus plus. P says Cheeks is a dog. Yeah, they were phenomenal. All right, let's go inside linebackers. B plus. I thought they were good. I mean, I thought they were really good, really solid. Allegro missed a tackle, but overall was sideline to sideline. Had a couple hurries. Really did a great job of closing down ground when Finn was scrambling out of the pocket on one occasion. You can see the speed and the just intensity he plays with. I thought he was really good. Tackett had good moments. I mentioned a nice tackle, I think, when he shot the A gap, hung on to a Miami Bio ball carrier. He needed to get a little deeper on a zone rep. Going back and looking at it, I think he could have got a little more depth there. Miami of Ohio was able to complete a pass behind him. But I think he was fine. No glaring missed tackles, no penalties, no glaring missed assignments. No, you remember a couple years ago, or really the last 2 years, our linebackers getting in space, having the ability to make a play and then not making that play. You didn't see that this week. You saw more speed, more physicality, more aggressiveness. I think it's a really good inside linebacker duo. I'm going to say B plus. No issues there. And you also got to see Cooper Catalano get in. You got to see Thomas Heiberger get in. Both of those really cool. They rotated him pretty early, which kind of surprised me, but that's the future of the spot. Those two along with Mason Posa. So it was cool to see them get reps as well. Okay, let's take some comments here. Cougar says linebackers were good too. They were crashing on the runs hard. The zone was a little weaker for sure, but they were expecting run A minus for them. Yep, I think it's totally fair. Cougar says the difference was our defense line was able to get to the quarterback when the safeties missed. Greg Lincecum. We're going to get to Emilio Agard, Greg, for sure. For sure. Craig Fissel says Raiola and Nebraska squeaked out a 3-point win over Cincinnati. Do you feel better about 17-0? I think I feel the same way I was feeling, where I think the defense played great and I think the offense had questions. Cincinnati's better than Miami of Ohio, I think. Who knows? So, week one, it's too early to make any declaratives. Miami of Ohio could end up being a really good MAC team, or maybe they're going to struggle and not live up to their standards. Maybe Cincinnati's really good. Maybe Nebraska's not. I feel fine. I think that's where I'm at. I think I feel fine. And it's reflected in these grades. There's some C's on offense, a D for offense line, but some A pluses on defense. I think on the whole, I feel fine. Some things I have to get better, but there's some real building blocks to build off of in week one. And to Zach's points earlier, and to your point as well, Craig, there are a lot of teams week one that struggle. There are a lot of teams week one that don't play well, that lay an egg, that don't look the part, that have questions. So 17-0, the Vegas line was 17.5. I think Wisconsin did fine. I think it's fine, but there are some questions as well. To take one more quick second here, we're going to come back and we're going to talk about the DB, special teams, and coaching. Who got A's? Who maybe needs to go to summer school? That's coming up next. Locked On Badgers. First, a quick second for our friends of the show over at Rugiet. Listen, guys. Wisconsin passing game has you down a little bit. Let Rugiet get you back up and back in the game. Right now, you've probably heard of Viagra, you've probably heard of Cialis, but if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rugiet Ready. Rugiet is the next generation prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rugiet's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and it kicks in fast, on average in 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. If traditional options haven't worked, Rugiet might be the answer. Over 150,000 men have already made the switch. Head to Rugiet.com/LockedOnCollege. Use code LockedOnCollege to get 15% off today. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnCollege. Use promo code LockedOnCollege for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit the Rugiet website for full safety information. Okay, let's talk. Next up, I got cornerbacks. I went solid B. And let me know in the chat where you guys are at on corners. I went B. So let's start with what I really liked. Emilio Agard. Dude, I've been saying it all summer. I've been saying it all off season. He hit the weight room. Like, that dude hit the absolute weight room. He's physical. He came up and just popped the guy. I think he's going to be so good this year, but going forward the next couple of years, he's going to be like a Soldier and Shelton, but maybe a little bigger, maybe a little more physical. I like him a lot. And then Deone Hill had a really nice physical play coming up as well. So I think you see the physicalness of those cornerbacks that we've talked about. You know, Rico's a good tackler as a corner as well. And then, gosh, help opposing receivers on like smoke screens if Nazir Forkran comes back and you have Nazir, Emilio, Deone Hill. That's a really physical group of corners. So really nice job tackling, supporting the run. And that is so important in college football now. I think that's a part of defensive cornerback play that when you look at how offenses in this era of college football try to spread you out, your corners have to be good tacklers. They have to be good in space because they get put on islands more than ever. So that part looked great. The physical, no blown coverages. There were no deep missed assignments where, you know, something got behind somebody and you know, your eye discipline wasn't great. So I thought there was a lot to like here. I thought Rico, I love Rico. Okay. The part that knocks this grade down just a tick for me is I think Rico can play a little more aggressively on some of that underneath stuff against Miami of Ohio receivers. He gave up a couple of pretty easy receptions underneath. Now, a couple caveats. I don't know what the play call was there. I don't know if he was told give 5-10 yard cushion. So maybe this is a coaching thing. But some of those receptions for a quarterback that was struggling, that's on the road, those were kind of layups. Those just little out routes underneath of Rico. And I just feel like Rico could drive on those, could play in their hip a little bit better. And I don't know. It's nitpicking. Like I said, I think they were good. They were solid. It's a B. Don't give them layups if you don't have to. I don't think Daquan Finn was going to pick you apart if Rico was a little closer. And I thought we could have done a little bit more to shut that down. Again, I don't know if that was the play call, if that was Rico, whatever that was. But I thought we gave them a few easy throws, and I think we could have done a better job there. Oh, yeah. So Hooger says kind of the same thing I was saying. I don't know why our cornerbacks are playing off the receivers, but in general, they played them tight, allowed our defense line to get home with coverage, like how they blitzed as well. That's a good point. Fadger Bournemouth, cornerbacks can tackle well. I think they showed that all in Platteville. I think they showed it in Madison. This is a really good tackling group of corners. Now, they do need to break down and not let a quarterback break contain when they come in on a blitz. That happened twice. I know Deone Hill it was Latimer in the first one. Sorry. He was there. Listen, not Deone Hill. Sorry. Listen, Daquan Finn is a really athletic quarterback. So this is easier said than done, but you have to keep your outside foot outside of their leverage. You can't let them break contain. So that's going to be a learning lesson. It's going to be a coaching lesson. They'll clean that up, I think. But I was encouraged. I was very encouraged. Dennis says they only played 3 outside cornerbacks, so it could be trouble going forward. I don't think they needed the young guys, and I think it would be best for the young guys to get a year, to be honest. I do like Kairos Gaines. I like Washington and Scott. I'm good with them not being forced into the fire a little bit in a 17-0 game, because a mistake by a corner, a mistake by safety can lead to a broken play, which is really, it felt like the only way Miami of Ohio was going to score. Like Wisconsin was going to make a mistake. That was the only way they were going to get a score. Safeties, A plus. How can you not give it an A plus? No deep missed assignments. Solid tackling across the board from Brown and from Zachman. And then Zachman has 2 picks. I don't know how. Yeah, as Greg Linscomb said, is Zachman the new turnover thief? A plus. Zachman is just that rock steady metronome in the secondary that you can always count on. That's consistent. That knows his keys. Understands film study. Understands tendencies. 2 picks. Almost housed one. I mean, 7 of those offensive points we got, you can almost directly attribute that to Preston Zachman. He set the offense up on the doorstep. I imagine he probably went to bed at night thinking, oh, stay in bounds, get the pick 6, because the pick 6 is such a cool thing, right? But maybe it was best, honestly, to set the offense up and give the offense some more reps in the red zone, to be honest. Maybe. Apologize to everybody that had just been here. My internet died and now it's back. But I think we were wrapping it up anyway. Special teams, I had B plus. Yeah, Bakos hit his kick, which that's all we asked for, right? Be consistent in that 40-yard range. Yeah, I apologize, guys. Hooger says RP Ryan. Dennis Reynolds says stoic. DJ says frozen. Yeah, I apologize for that. We were about wrapping it up anyway. So I have special teams B plus. You caught every punt. You didn't kick anything out of bounds. You hit your field goal. Punting wasn't great. Like you would like to see a little more consistent effort from Atticus Bertram's. I thought they should have kicked the chip shot field goal, but that's not on special teams. That's a coaching decision. So I think if you come out of week 1, you hit your field goals, didn't kick anything out of bounds. No, here's the thing. Special teams can't cost you a game, right? You can't have a week 1 moment where you fumble a snap, get a punt blocked, botch a field goal. None of that happened. So I think it was solid. Anyway, we're going to wrap up there. Again, apologize for the quick technical difficulties on Wisconsin, and a bunch more content coming up as always. Thank you so much, and we will talk later.